Hi, my name is Denisha Moore, and today I'm going to be doing a book review over the book The Devil's Highway by Louis Urrea. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, the author wrote this book based on an actual story that really happened. Um, and the way he came in contact with this story was because he the border patrol and the doctors and the nurses that dealt with the survivors of the tragic um, events that happened in the book, they just didn't like the way that this happened, and it was the largest number. Um, it was the largest border crossing attempt by a group of people um, on record. So they wanted to inform the public that crossing the border isn't just a 3-day walk with shade here and there. That's not the case at all. It's a very treacherous journey, and people get scammed out of money all the time, and it's it opens your eyes to why people cross the border, and why when someone tells them you need to go back, oh, you can just take a bus back, it's not that hard. You don't know what that person has to go through to get here. Um, so they let him read their diaries and their notebooks that they kept of the encounters that they had with other people trying to cross the border, along with the people who survived from this failed attempt at the border crossing. Um, and he even got some statements from the survivors themselves. Not directly, because it was it was a ongoing case at the time that he was getting his information, so they were just only allowed to pass notes here and there through people. Um, yeah. So that's a little background on how he got his information and stuff. But the book, Devil's Highway, is about 26 men who went into the Arizona desert, a section of it known as the Devil's Highway. Um, and out of the 26 men, only 14 survived, I believe. Um, it was either 12 or 14. I can't remember the exact number. Um, but only like half of the group survived, and that's really tragic. Um, like 5 people ended up walking off of walking off of um, walking out of off of a mountain cliff or something like that, and I just think that's really tragic. But while they were walking through the desert, the author explains to the reader, there's wagon tracks in the ground from the old settlers or the Texans that were coming through there to get to get to California or whatever. And I just think it's amazing how those tracks are still there, and people still kind of try to follow them. Not really, but sometimes they do. Um, the author also talks about how there's a town somewhere, and it's pretty much the last place of civilization while you're out there, and after that you're just pretty much on your own. But he talks about how there's nothing but deadly animals out there in the desert, like sidewinders, snakes, and scorpions and spiders, and just things that are just out there to kill you. And these animals are nocturnal, and that's like the most dangerous time to be out, because at nighttime you're sleepy and you just want to rest, but there's nowhere for you to really rest comfortably. Um, so that was pretty interesting to me, how vivid he is with his imagery and stuff. Um, But before the journey began, the the coyote, um he got $13,000 from people, individuals, or family groups, in order to guarantee their safe crossing. um but that didn't happen at all. He got this 18-year-old kid to be their guide to America, but he's completely inexperienced, didn't know where he was going. Um, so that went south really quickly. But before the journey started, he told the people, oh, well, you just need a bottle of water and you just go out and buy a few things. Don't buy a lot, because it's hot out there. And so you don't want anything to be weighing you down in the heat, so pack lightly if you do. So they bought like chocolate and soda and one bottle of water, just one. I think that's crazy though. How are you gonna cross a desert that's known as the Devil's Highway? That stories get told about it, from village to village to village. Why would you go out there somewhere where temperatures reach over 100 degrees, up to like 130, and one bottle? That blew my mind. Considering the fact that where they come from is probably hot as well, probably not as hot as it does get there in Arizona, but one bottle of water isn't going to last you that long. And then why are you buying chocolate out of the store? That's chocolate is going to melt, and then soda that's not good for you, that creates gas, and that's just really bad. Um, and also in the book, he talks about Border Patrol and how there's good ones and there's bad ones. And the bad ones, they take advantage of the people when they're crossing. If they come across a group, a large group of people, and they have women in there, they'll kind of handcuff the women and take them somewhere and feel all up on them or whatever. And the people can't really speak up about it because they weren't supposed to be there in the first place, and nobody really has sympathy for them when they're trying to cross the border, when they're told, don't do that, that's dangerous. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. um but the good ones, they do help people when they are in need. So the way that the tragic journey ended was that uh, 5 of the 14 survivors saw a border patrol truck, and the border patrol man, he stepped out of the truck, and he like he signaled for them to come here, and he had water, so they pretty much walked straight to him and drank the water, and they threw it up, but then they kept drinking it because they were just so thirsty. And they told them that, oh, there's some more people hiding back there, but we've lost a lot of people. A lot of people have died, and I think that's crazy how out of all those people, only 14 survived. And it was only by some miracle that a Border Patrol truck was out there. Because normally Border Patrol doesn't even like to go anywhere near the Devil's Highway. Um, they just don't. But the good Border Patrol, they don't like it when they find a mother and a child um dead in the desert. They don't like that. That really gets under their skin. And it makes them want to work harder or be more vigilant so that won't happen. Another thing that gets under their skin is that they don't like when there's a group of people and their guide through the desert completely abandon them, like the 18-year-old did in the story. You don't abandon someone when you told them that I'll get you to safety. When people put trust into you, and especially when someone above you has told you, oh, when you cross these people over the border, for every person that you cross, it's $100. It's just like you gave up when there were so many reasons for you not to give up, considering the fact that you had someone's life in your hand. Um, that was just crazy to me. But the survivors, they were granted immunity if they testified against the coyote, and that's the dude that's pretty much in charge of everything. Um, so they had to testify against him, and I believe he got sentenced to it was either 25 or life, but he had a $250,000 fine. And their guy, the 18-year-old boy, he definitely got life, and a fine as well. Um, I kind of felt sympathy for him, but then again, I didn't, because if you knew you were inexperienced, you just really shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have. You should never take someone's life in your hands and just say, "Oh, I'm tired of this." Some of them are dying, and they're just getting on my nerves, and I'm hot, and I'm frustrated, and I don't know where to go, and I keep going in circles, so I'm just leaving. I just felt like he gave up too soon when he didn't really have to. Um, so that's how that ordeal ended. But The Devil's Highway is a really good book for anyone to read. It'll definitely tug at your moral strings and your heartstrings, but it's a really good book to read and to listen to on audio. The audio is like 8 hours long. That's not that long. But you should totally read it. It's really worth it.